All right, we'd like to get started here with our city council. Appreciate everyone that's come tonight and everyone that's out there in TV land watching. So we'd like to start with our motivational and inspirational message. Reed Hayes is going to take, so come right up there and, just look right at us and don't be afraid.
I'm not familiar with the protocol for addressing a city council. I'm assuming I should say Mr. Mayor and City Council. I'm glad to be here today. Mr. Argyle has asked me to share something with you that a humanitarian project my wife and I have been involved in. This will be our second year. In doing so, what I'd like to do is explain briefly the context of why we did this project and then give you some brief experiences that we had as we were at Mexico last year. Friends of ours, Raymond and Jenny Roberts, 4 years ago wanted to have a humanitarian project for their family. They wanted to provide their children the giving aspect of Christmas more than the receiving aspect of Christmas. So they did some research to try to figure out what type of project would best suit their family. They had 4 children. They discovered that many of the projects were way too expensive to travel and to get there. Some of them required very detailed skills that their children didn't possess, which meant if they went, the children would have no access to actually serving anyone. So they were a bit discouraged, and they came across a group that's in San Quintin, Mexico, 5 hours south of Tijuana, a Christian group that has a constant presence down in San Quintin, where they provide assistance for a homeless shelter, for a women's shelter, and for an orphanage. And they contacted this group, and it was affordable, it was close by, they could drive down there with their RV, and so they prepared to go down there to work with the group in Mexico. 2 weeks prior to their departure, they were notified by the organization that they were not invited to attend because of their religious affiliation. So Raymond and Jenny were kind of discouraged because they had all these plans to take their children down to Mexico to serve, and that plan was now destroyed because of religious bigotry. So they contacted the LDS branch president down there and said that they had planned to come down, but now they didn't have a reason to come, and the branch president encouraged them to come anyway. The LDS branch down there had sufficient need, and if they could come down with whatever clothing, utilities, or anything that they could provide, they could really do a lot of service with the branch members. So the Roberts family 4 years ago went down not knowing where to go, not knowing anything, had an RV full of clothes that were donated rapidly in 2 weeks, and they went down there and provided a huge Christmas for the entire branch down in San Quintin. When they were down there, they also noticed the abject poverty that not just the members of the church lived in, but the entire city was living in. There is one paved road throughout the entire city. The rest are just dirt roads. And when you use the term house, that's really not a term that you would use once you're down there. I know that some of you have been to developing countries and have seen places like this, where a tarp on top of a 4-post structure is considered a home. These were the types of places that they were going to. And so what they did on the last day of their adventure is they pooled all their money together, which was a meager amount, and they went shopping at a local market to provide as much as they could for the poorest people in town. They would just drive down the poorest area and then look for a home that had a need and just knock on the door and say, we'd like to give you some stuff. They called that the food drive. We went with them on their third year, which was last year, and they're much more organized now. And we were able to, again, provide the branch members down there a very wonderful Christmas with donations that Eagle Projects have donated. We had 4 or 5 Eagle Projects who provided food and who provided clothing and implements that were necessary down there for the members. And then we had a larger sum of money that we could use for what they call the food drive. And that's the experience I want to share with you. The way they do the food drive is they simply drive down to the place called Paradise, which is the poorest part of town. And we have no idea where we're going to go, who we're going to meet, or what we're going to do. We simply have bags of a month's supply of food that we can provide someone. And we drive around until someone has a feeling to say, let's stop at that house and see if they're home. So we would stop at the homes, and we would overwhelm the people that live there. They don't know us. We don't know them. And we would provide them a month's supply of food. And I've heard several experiences in my growing up, hearing about people who show up at people's door and they were an answer to a prayer. And I have never been that person who has been an answer to a prayer. I've always heard those stories. The very last door that we knocked on, it was a woman who came to the door with holding a young baby, and the toddler was in the room, in the house behind her. And when we knocked on the door and said, we want to give you some food just because we have it, She broke down in tears, and we had no idea why. And she explained, my wife was there, she speaks Spanish, I don't. She explained to my wife that her husband has been working 80 hours a week and they are out of money. They had no food in the house, and she was just praying at that moment for some food, for some relief for their poverty. At that very moment, we knocked on her door, and we were able to provide her, we gave her extra supplies. We gave her 2 months of rations that they could live on, and she was probably going to stretch it to 3 or 4 months, as frugal as they are. But we were able to do this the day after Christmas with a bunch of younger children that were with us, with the group. And I have never seen a group of people who have finally caught the true meaning of Christmas, that giving is much more better than receiving, when we were able to be an answer to people's prayers. And that's my thought for you.
Thank you. Very well.
Want me to give the prayer? Okay. Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for the chance we have to meet together in this public gathering. We're grateful for the fine people who represent us in the city and for all the work that they do for us. We ask Thee, as we discuss issues important to neighborhoods and to cities, that we keep our conversations civil, and that we do our best to represent ourselves and to accept the decisions that are made. We ask Thee to help those who are making decisions to do the best they can to make the decisions that are going to do the best for this city. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you very much. I've asked Councilman Scobes to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
The audience, please rise. Repeat the pledge with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
All right. We'll move into public comments, and I'm going to have Chief Mike Smith come and address us. If you want to come and do that now.
Mayor and Council, thank you so much for giving me a few minutes of your time this evening. I come to you just to announce that I'm going to be running for sheriff this next year, and I wanted to have an opportunity to talk to you guys and let you get to know me and explain to you why. But just a little bit about me. I'll keep it short because I know your meeting's important, but just a little bit about me. I've been in law enforcement for 23 years. I've been in Pleasant Grove the entire time. Worked up through the ranks in Pleasant Grove. Chief of Police in Pleasant Grove right now. I've been the chief for just over 6 years. In that time, I've worked with the county. I've been a reserve deputy with the county. I've been on the SWAT team with the county for 18 years, where I was a forward operations commander on the team. And some of the perspective I think I can bring to the sheriff's office, some of that city perspective that I understand as a chief of police, the community, the city, the resources, and how important it is to have a cooperative effort throughout the county, especially with the sheriff's office, as our cities become tapped for resources and need help with law enforcement, emergency management, and other things. I think I can bring a perspective to the table of that city collaborative effort. I'm excited to do this. I got to tell you, I'm a little scared to do it. I'm not a politician at all, never have been. Tried to avoid it my entire life, so I'm definitely a fish out of water in this. But I wanted to keep it short for you tonight and not tie up your time, so thank you for allowing me to be here. Is it okay if I leave these with your recorder? And
you bet.
If you have any questions for me, I encourage you to look me up, to ask those that know me and have worked with me about me. I'd love to gain your support. There's contact information on these. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, now we'll go on with our normal public comments. Just a reminder, come up, state your name, and if there's a bunch that are going to repeat the same thing, please don't repeat the same thing. We hear it once, we're good. And just try to keep it around 3 minutes and keep it civil. So anybody that'd like to come up, come on up.
Greetings, Mayor Leifson and City Council members. We appreciate you and all that you do to make Spanish Fork an amazing place to live. We've lived here 23 years, and I was getting to that.
Oh, sorry.
So anyway, I just wanted to say thank you.
No, you're welcome.
And my name is Amanda Taylor, and I'm here representing a large number of people that share a couple of big concerns. One is the safety of our kids crossing Highway 6 at Center Street, and the other is the issue of the speed of traffic coming down the highway to this intersection. Last Wednesday, I was standing in my kitchen when I again heard the loud sirens that I often do because my house is right by this intersection. My immediate thoughts were, oh my gosh, I hope that's not Jared, my 13-year-old son who crosses Highway 6 every day from Diamond Fork Junior High School. 2 minutes later, to my relief, he came running in the house, out of breath, with the words, "Mom, there's a huge accident at the bridge. A semi is off the road down to the railroad tracks and a guy is laying on the ground with a blanket over him. I don't know if he's alive or not." This accident alone required 4 ambulances to transport people in critical condition to the hospital. It occurred right as the Diamond Fork Junior High kids were walking home from school crossing Highway 6. 5 days earlier, a lady and her daughter who had just gotten in an accident at the same intersection came to my house. The mom had blood on her and was in shock. I knew that she needed help, and eventually she did end up in the hospital too. She was trying to find her dog that had escaped at the scene of the accident. In the meantime, her son and another child were taken by ambulance to the hospital. So here are 2 examples of 2 horrific accidents that happened within 5 days of each other at the same intersection where hundreds of our kids are walking home from school. Spanish Fork police reports show 13 major accidents at our bridge in 2017 alone, and that is terrifying. Because of the significant population growth north of Highway 6, and the placement of Maple Mountain and Diamond Fork Junior High, this intersection has become a scary mixture of high-speed traffic packed with semi-trucks, a residential neighborhood with families coming and going, and a major school crossing. We would like to see a flyover built over Highway 6 at Center Street to protect our kids. We would also like to see prepare to stop when flashing signal lights placed east of the traffic light to slow down traffic. Even though the speed limit is posted at 50 miles per hour, traffic seems to be flying much faster. A lot of times the semi-trucks will honk, signaling they cannot stop because they're going too fast, and this is not okay where our kids are crossing that road. My teenage daughter was turning left at that light with a friend. The friend panicked, not knowing if she had enough time to go before the semi came. She paused and then decided to go. My Caitlin said she almost died that day because there were millimeters before that truck going 60 would have struck them. I think it's so important that we fix this as soon as possible. This is an intersection where hundreds of brand new drivers are on their way back and forth to Maple Mountain High School every single day. So in summary, again, this is a very dangerous intersection. There is a long history of accidents, injury, and even deaths here. So I've done my homework. I've been in contact with Louis Alioni, who is now in contact with UDOT regarding this. And so I'd like to address for just 1 second what he has told me. He reported back to me that UDOT said no to the flashing lights because they've already made it so traffic is supposed to stop while people cross the road. He also said that UDOT will plan on doing a speed study to consider reducing speeds through here. I feel strongly that we need reduced speed and flashing lights because of the number of people always at this intersection. UDOT is going to look at the possibility of putting in a flyover or digging a tunnel going under the bridge. He said, though, that this could take 1.5 to 2 years to get the funding to complete this. He also recommended that our kids take the bus, which there are buses available to us. My concern is it's not just the junior high kids that are crossing there right now. It's all the kids walking to Fizz, walking to Cowboy Donuts, walking to get pizza. And there's constantly people crossing this intersection, like to get on the river, not the river trail, but the trail itself. So we just feel it's so urgent and need your support to push this along. And thank you very much.
Well done. Thank you. Thank you. That was well done. Anyone else would like to talk? I think we...
Smile if you're here to support Amanda, so we know. Okay, there we go.
There you go. That's great. And she did a great job. And just so you know, we are looking at that, and we appreciate your concerns. And so we want all our kids to be safe. And so, we'll do what we can to make that happen.
I hadn't planned on coming up here tonight, but I wanted to add a couple things to what Amanda mentioned. My name's Justin Basham. One thing that you might consider doing in addition to what Amanda mentioned was maybe adding some rumble strips to the road. In the event that a semi-truck comes out of that canyon and the driver's not completely awake, the lights and reduced speed, they may not even notice. I will also mention last year my son, who would have been 12 at the time, was hit by a car crossing that crosswalk. It was very minor, but the driver just drove away. So it is happening, and that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Anyone else would like to come up and address the mayor of the council? If not, we'll move into council comments. And Councilman Argyle.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple of things. So first of all, Richard Davis asked me to attend the celebration or the program of the Christmas box Angel at the cemetery. And I just want to mention Richard Davis is a previous councilman, and he has done this for many years at our cemetery. We have this angel that was started several years ago and put there for the people in our community, citizens in our community that has lost a small loved one. I had the opportunity it was a very short program. Some experience was shared by one, and then a song was sang. But just wanted to bring that to the attention. It's not an easy thing, but it is something that the Spanish Fork City has done so that the citizens in our community know that at this difficult time that they're not the only ones facing this issue. And afterwards, I have several people come up to me and tell me that this helps. I have not lost a little one, thank you, but there were many in our community that they had brought up these carnations. Those that had lost a child this year, and there was more there than I would have thought. And it was a neat experience for me, and there was a good crowd there. And I just want to say thanks to Richard for doing that. I know that's not easy for him to do, but I'm sure it helps him heal also. It was a neat little program, and just wanted to know our community, because sometimes when they hear that, our Christmas box angel is at our cemetery. Also, this last Saturday, I know many of you complain about the noise that takes place on this Saturday, but I just wanted to mention, so one of our own citizens, Tom Hodson, who is a sheriff, has headed this Shop with a Cop for many, many years. 13 or 14 years ago, one of the employees that we have, Gatlin Gardner, who's a mechanic for us now, took it on as an Eagle project for our family to take on and provide breakfast for Shop with a Cop. Since that, we have done this every year. Our family, our kids, our grandkids look so forward to this day. And I just want to do a little shout out to thanks. The volunteers that come and help us set up and clean up and serve are awesome. Spanish Fork always is noted for that. I want to say thanks to our officers, and here's some pictures of our own officers, the many officers in our county who take time out to do this. Come here, get breakfast, go up through the lights. And previous years it's been Kmart, and the last couple of years it's now Walmart, who is one of our community businesses. allow them to go down to Walmart and take a little bit of money and go in and buy gifts for them and their family. In recent years, I had a few officers tell me that they always had to have these kids, they have to buy at least one for themselves, because they would never want to buy one for themselves. They'd always want to buy one for everybody else. But they've kind of made them buy at least one for themselves. But I'm grateful for Chief Adams. He's always there. I missed this one because I was home with the flu. That wasn't easy to miss, because my family really, really enjoys this. And the neatest thing about this is these kids get to ride in a cop car with lights and sirens and no handcuffs. So it's a cool thing. And I believe, I couldn't get with Tom to find out our particular numbers. We had a large group this year. I know it was, do you know, Chief Adams, do you have any idea?
Last year was 150, so I'm guessing about that or more.
Yeah, and we was thinking a little more. So we have 150 officers and 150 children that get an opportunity to do this. And just a shout out to our safety, public safety team and the excitement that this brings. I know it's noisy, but it is an exciting time, and we thoroughly enjoy it. And I know the kids do. I know they are excited about this day, and we appreciate that. Thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, council member Beck.
I just want to thank the Chamber of Commerce real quickly for the Winter Lights Parade. That was such a fun event. It was the warmest one yet, 55 degrees, and so we therefore had the biggest crowd. And I want to also thank the Parks and Rec Department for all their help with that and lighting this new tree on our north side of our building. And we had a lot of citizens gather around while the mayor and Santa welcomed in the holiday season. So that was a really neat event. And then with Shop with the Cop, this was my second year volunteering as a wrapper. So that's after the ride in the cop cars and the breakfast. And it's always fun as I'm wrapping. I ask them what their favorite event or favorite thing of the morning was, and they all have different opinions, but most of them say, you know, being with the cop and lighting the lights and doing those things. And it's fun to see what presents they buy. One girl this year, the entire cart was for herself, so we didn't even have to put tags on the gifts. It was cute. And anyways, they're just cute kids, and it was neat to see so many police officers spend 4 or 5 hours of their Saturday morning doing this. And then I want to invite our Chamber Director, Heather Youd, up to report on all things Chamber of Commerce.
Don't have a whole lot to report, just the Lights Parade went really well. We had probably 30 to 35 entrants this year. And my personal opinion, they were amazing, one of the best parades that we've ever had. So we were happy to help with the tree lighting. I thought it went over really well. Hopefully we can continue to do that next year. Our December business of the month is the Dugout. So I know a lot of you have probably already been there, but go check them out. Tell them thanks for being part of the community. We also have 2 ribbon cuttings tomorrow. The first one is at noon, and that's for Alliance Behavioral Psychology, which is in that new office building right there behind O'Reilly Auto Parts. So that's at noon. And then tomorrow night, we're all excited for the ribbon cutting for the new Cinemark Theater. So if you can come to that, that would be great. I actually have 2 tickets for all of you.
Thank you, Heather.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Will they be showing Mayor's favorite movie?
I don't know what the movies are.
What is
Come
Mayor's
on.
favorite movie?
You don't know?
You don't know?
Home Alone.
You need to research that.
Can I Google it?
So if you can come to that, the tickets are only for tomorrow night. It's a VIP event. They've only allowing people who have the invitations to come. So hopefully you can come and check it out. So, and then the theater will actually be opening on Thursday for everyone else. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Heather.
Thanks, Heather.
That's all I have, Mayor.
I don't think we can just, not celebrate that for just a moment. That's kind of a big deal, right?
It is a big
I
deal.
mean, that's huge. That's a really big deal.
Exciting.
And I think with the advent of this theater and a month ago with Olive Garden, every dollar that you spend at Olive Garden right now will bring another restaurant. So, Sean, you need to go to Olive Garden more. Casey, you need to take Amberly to Olive Garden. Okay. because all the restaurants are watching. It's kind of an interesting industry, these sit-down restaurants. They are very scared, a very tentative lot. And so they've told us, we're going to watch the first one, and we're not going to be that first one. So that first one, the brave one, was Olive Garden. They're here. And as far as I know, they're really doing well. They're very, very busy. But every time you go, there's another restaurant is watching, which just makes it better and better for us. So movie theater plus the restaurant, it's great. So Heather, great job. Way to bring it here.
And the question that I've been asked 1,000 times, yes, they do have luxury loungers. So go there and fall asleep.
Yeah, so every theater, every seat is a recliner. I've seen them. They only have one real stadium with their XD, but every seat is a luxury lounger, and they have kind of if you go in, it's kind of a U, almost like a U-shaped floor. So everybody has a good angle at the screen, but every seat is a recliner.
So what you're saying is when I go with my wife to a chick flick, that'd be comfortable when I fall asleep.
I think you get credit for going, right?
Okay, I get bonus points.
She gets, yeah.
How many theaters are in there, 6 or 8?
8. Andy's here. Andy knows more about it than I do.
Okay.
8 theaters, 1 XD, and they can expand to 2 more theaters if they are successful and want to.
Good.
Awesome.
So,
Thanks for that report, Seth. I'll put you on.
I yield the remainder of my time.
No. Councilman Gordon.
Mayor, did you know Stacy was a rapper? She just told us so.
Yeah, she just told us she was a rapper.
Oh.
Mayor, do you know where these Rice Krispie treats came from?
I don't.
One of my friends that's down here, I won't embarrass her too much by
You have
telling
a friend?
Her name's Teresa McClay.
She's right out
She's
there.
right out here. And she, like me, is along with a lot of these concerned people who have children that walk to Diamond Fork.
Is this considered a bribe?
I'm going to take one. It's not a bribe. She just knows,
Too.
in case history doesn't repeat itself, the last time she was here, she had cookies, and she was asking for a crossing guard for her kids to get to Reese Elementary School. And cookies were actually a thank you for the crossing guard that happened. So I just appreciate everybody that's here tonight for that, and Amanda and Justin's comments. I know that everyone feels that same way. I feel that same way. I have a 7th grader that walks home that way anyway. Mom usually takes her to school, but I've spent some time myself and will be spending more time. Today I spent some time on the phone with UDOT, some friends over there. I come from road construction background, and I had no idea the disadvantages to a flyover, because that was my solution as well. And they've committed to sit down with us and talk about all this. Flyover, you need to have it handicap accessible, and so since it has to go like this to get up there, kids are too lazy to go up in the other areas that they have them. Seems crazy, right? You wouldn't be? Okay. So then when they get up there, they have issues with kids throwing stuff off of them and then going to juvie. Like all these things that we talked about for a long time.
You've grown up, so that's not you. Then.
Well, I'm just hoping that if it happens, Mayor's going to get up there with the red Dixie cups and put something neat like "Welcome Home, Elder" or something. Chris, did you have something you wanted to add to it?
Yeah. Would you mind if I just came?
Please do.
I do mind, but come on
Please
up
do.
anyway.
While you're talking, I'm going to eat my Rice Krispie treat.
Can you bring the
I know.
aerial up?
Hey, these are safe, guys. I know they're not. I know
Hey.
they're not labeled. They're
And you
from
know what?
Teresa.
And I like this. This is raising the bar for council comment or for public comment. So tell your friends.
It's not required, but it helps.
They're very delicious, thank you.
So I always get accused of asking for money. So if I can have some people with me
Backing
when
you
I'm
up.
asking, then that's always a good thing.
Runs out.
First of all, I would just like to say thank you to all these people. I think it's so important to get involved and to really address issues like this and to help bring them to the forefront of public discussion. And I think this is exactly what government and a free country is all about, and I really appreciate you guys coming down. I think it's really good. So I just want to talk a little bit about the process that internally we have been discussing. We've been talking to different members of the neighborhood for about a week now, and we've been discussing a lot of issues. You know, the first one is this is UDOT owns US 6 and the signal, so a lot of it will probably be you and us going to UDOT promoting different ideas. And one thing that we have is access to a lot of data and research. We have, Lua is our designated traffic engineer. He's not trained as a traffic engineer. He's actually a project engineer, a civil engineer. But we had to assign someone to be over traffic, and so Lua got that. Does a great job. He works hard. But we do have consultants that work for us who are trained traffic engineers. And a lot of times we can go to them and ask some questions about regulations and what would it take to get this flashing warning ahead of time. You know, what kind of warrants do we need and how close are we on this? And then we can go to UDOT and say, look, let's do this. It makes sense. The cost is low, and we can talk through some of those things. We looked at doing a overhead crossing here when the bridge was done. It took years to save up enough money for the bridge, to tell you the truth. And an overhead crossing this long is very, very expensive. And what kind of killed it then wasn't just a lack of funds, though. And I just want to point out some of those issues that we discussed, and I think Brandon kind of touched on them. But when Bangerter Highway went through and they had all of those overhead crossings, I don't know if you remember, there was a pretty high-profile pedestrian accident where a guy in a wheelchair was being pushed by his son, got hit, and you know, everyone was, why didn't they use overhead? But the overhead crossings are not very convenient. You go down a long ramp and another long ramp, and then you get up and then you go across. And so the worry was then is would kids actually use them? And for that much money, maybe there's a better way. Anyway, one thing that we've been tossing around, and we haven't really talked to UDOT about this or done a fatal flaw study, which sometimes you have a good idea, but then you get in deeper and deeper as you go over it with the engineers. There's a fatal flaw, but if there's not a fatal flaw, it might be a good idea is if we now have this protected walkway across here, which is wonderful, a lot better than what we had before. But if you could somehow get to this graded area and drop down in a ramp and do some sort of a culvert tunnel under here, there's a ramp here where the grades of the trail go down quite a bit, and maybe you could come out here and have a little more convenient crossing. So that's something that we're going to try to do a fatal flaw analysis of, cost it out, and talk to UDOT about. Some of the other things, we've looked at a lot of accident data, and it was funny, when you look at it by year, you look at it and you say, my heavens, as soon as we widened the bridge and widened this intersection and put in the signals and did all the timing, accidents went way up. And initially we just decided never to do any city projects again because it just makes it worse. But as we delved in a little bit deeper, we realized that the year before, 2015, 2016, we had no snow. It was the third year of a bad drought year, and we had no snow in the mountains, very few snowstorms here in town. I just remember that my salt budget was like $60-something thousand under that year, and so we had all this extra money in salt. But the following year, 2016, 2017, which was, you know, the winter after we did these improvements, we had snowstorms every other day. I used up that $60,000 on salt. And with a heavy winter, you would expect accidents to go up in most places. Now, they didn't throughout town. Generally, we're having less accidents per intersection. If you take the top 9 worst intersections and you add them up, we were at about 150 in 2015. In 2016, it dropped down to about 100. If you add up the number of accidents in those top 9, and then it looks like it's around 120 in in 2017. So overall, it seems like it's trending down, but this intersection is trending up. And so we're trying to figure out why. A lot of it could be that snowstorm. Immediately after the widening in the bridge, the accident level was lower than it ever had been for several months. But then as winter came on, it got really heavy and we had a lot of accidents there. And we've had a lot recently, and it's not because of snow. What's that?
So the light just up east of this light.
Yes, yeah, 2550.
So from that light to this light, why is it 50 miles per hour? It's just a little tiny section, and it takes them how long to get from stop to 50 miles an hour, and then suddenly they have to stop again. And I think that's why the trucks are honking. I can't stop because I just got to 50 and I'm gonna make this light. So, you know.
Yeah, well, and this is an area where a no air brake area. But hopefully someone would use their air brakes before they chose to just blow through an intersection. I can't imagine. But that being said, I'm not a traffic engineer either. I haven't been trained as a traffic engineer. I've been around it enough that I know a little bit enough to make me dangerous. But this is why we get with the traffic engineers and we go to UDOT with some of their data, and they can pull out MUTC manual stuff, and they can reach out to the Federal Highways Manual and help us talk to UDOT in their terms and say, yeah, we can do this. This speed could be less, and this is why, and here's the reason. And so we plan to do that and get with UDOT. That will probably take 3 to 4 weeks through the Christmas holiday. I kept trying to think how I could speed up, and we'll do it as fast as we can. But I'm just trying to be realistic. My experience and getting through these issues and back and forth on studies and analyzing things and fatal flaw studies and stuff like that. But we'll go through that. Another thing is harder than you think, and I know that administration doesn't always believe this, but making good quality estimates is hard of how much things are going to cost, right? And so that will take some time, but I mean, if it's millions of dollars to do a tunnel under here, we kind of need to know that, and that gives you an idea of how it can be or cannot be. If it's cheaper, then it's a little bit easier to.
Are communities allowed to do fundraisers and donate money to UDOT to help with something like that? Will that
Absolutely.
encourage it along?
Absolutely. I would wait till the estimates came out and we kind of got the facts together but one thing that is a huge goal of my engineering office is communicating with the public, and they're very committed to, once they get some answers, and to disseminate that out to all of you and let you know, and so we'll work on that, and hopefully in 3 to 4 weeks we'll have some good data for you.
Oh, you got to let her, because she brought the Rice Krispie trees.
Teresa.
You okay.
Well, something that might help.
Will you come up? I know you. Yeah, thanks.
She knows how to do this.
I'm Teresa McClay. One thing that hasn't been brought up is, I think due to the accidents, they've had that yellow flashing light, and I don't know what happened in this accident, but with that yellow flashing light, it allows people to turn left. They don't know how fast those cars are coming. That could be maybe an immediate help that's not too expensive. Just have that light be red until traffic stop, not allow that flashing light to go. So I didn't know if that was brought up or not. So.
Okay, yes, yeah, we'll put that on the list and look into that. It's interesting, as soon as we got the yellow flashing light on Main Street and 1000 North, accidents dropped, I want to say 40-something%. So we just need to look at scientifically what is going on, what's causing the accidents, would that help or not help, and that type of delving deep into it takes a little bit of time. But yeah, you had a question?
I was just going to say, the population used to be really small over there, and so it wasn't an issue, and now it's just tripled. I
Yeah, so the road fund is fed by the gas tax. And what happens is the federal government takes the gas tax and they take a big chunk of it, and then the state takes a big chunk of it, counties take a chunk of it, and then there's a relatively small amount left for the cities. This has been a huge issue in the legislature lately, and it's all based on how much gas you sell. But then at the same time, the federal government's saying, well, cars need to be more efficient and use less fuel. And so the amount of fuel being sold as we get more hybrids and electric cars, things like that, is going down. But the number of roads is going up. And so it's kind of come to a head with the legislature where a lot of cities are saying, hey, you can't keep cutting our funding, our roads are increasing, and so one of the big issues in the legislature right now is the gas tax that sustainable if eventually we're going to have a lot of electric cars out and things, and the road costs are just going up. And so a lot of things are being looked at in the legislature. Right now in Spanish Fort, we use all of the gas tax, and then we delve into property tax and sales tax, another $1.2 million. We take that out of the general fund and we put it towards roads too. So as far as having a pot, I have, I think 6 enterprise funds in Public Works, and they're all doing great. They all have cash reserves and everything except for one, and that's the streets and storm drain, and they're bankrupt all the time. So it's kind of a harder, funding is harder for this. And so that's why we reach out to UDOT and say, hey, this is your road, this is your intersection, let's get something done. And so.
Isn't Chris fun to have around? I mean, he loves this stuff. He'll go on for the rest of the night if we let him, but some of us have to go make donuts at 1:30. So
I'm done.
Trust me when he says he will get back to you. That's why I wanted him to come up tonight, because he really is a wealth of knowledge, and his group, they do want to see something
Thanks,
better.
Chris.
We got a good group behind
Appreciate it.
this. So that was really the main point behind my comment. Just I really appreciate you guys taking the time to be here, and it's not falling on deaf ears, because you've got 3 councilmen that live in that area, and you know, not that should matter. We do make decisions based on the best, you know.
Because I care too.
Stacy cares, even though she lives.
Oh, really?
She
I'm
lives.
glad you told us that.
Not in that area. So thank you, appreciate that. Mayor had a garbage meeting. That's fun to talk about. I wanted to let you know that we were able to come to terms to sell the chunk of that property along 400 South in Springville. $361,000 was the sale of that, for that road to be widened for the Love's Truck Stop area. That'll make that area a lot easier to access our transfer station. Looked at some of the analyses that have been done to either expand the transfer station. Was looking, and from last year to this year's increased in tonnage, we took Spanish Fork City took an extra 1,000 tons of garbage to the transfer station. So we are taking more. We can attribute a lot of that to the closed green waste, and people are taking the green waste to the transfer station. However, we probably need to look serious about load leveling. What that means is garbage days in Spanish Fork City have been the same for a very long time. Our contract is coming due with Republic Services, and we may look at a different day if that helps the transfer station not have such an overload. They're taking on about 1,000 tons a day on a Monday, and then other days they get down to the low hundreds. And so if we can help that out by maybe taking our garbage on a Wednesday, Thursday situation, then that'll help out our transfer station, and we might be able to save some money by not having to build a whole new transfer station, relocate it, expand it, all of those types of things. Other than that, we approved the budget and had our audit that was done. No findings there. Things were good there, and that's all I have to report, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Scopes.
Mayor, 2 things to report. As mentioned before, the library board, we have 2 members that they've met their time of service with the library board, so they will be leaving at the end of the year. I know that Pam's received about 5 different applications so far for citizens volunteering to serve on that committee, and so if you haven't received them already, you'll be receiving those. Be able to go through for 2 people for the next 3 years, which will be great. That we have, as Chris had mentioned, that's what living in a free country, being able to serve and volunteer, and Spanish Fork is better than, I think, better than everyone else at doing that, which is fantastic. On a fun note, if Stacy can say she cares, I've taught some of these kids that cross back and forth. So there.
So you care too?
Now we get it.
She'll write a rap about it.
She's our rapper.
And then for the
Stacy.
well, right online with Stacy's affinity for music, for the arts. There's in our community we have the Turn Community Services. It's a group. It's an art center for adults with disabilities, and on the 19th, December 19th, this next week, from 12 to 1:30 p.m. So right in the middle of the day. Their address is 1620 North Main Street. They will have a mini tree show, and what that is these adults have done. They've done artwork, decorating trees and other things, and they have sort of an art gallery during that time. They'd love the community to be able to go support them, to be able to look at the things that these wonderful adults and individuals have done, and just a great opportunity to be able to continue in the Christmas spirit and look at the things that they've learned, they've done, and showcase. So again, that's the 19th from 12 to 1:30. And Merry Christmas, everyone. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilman Mendenhall.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for coming, everybody. Is this Jared? Is this Amanda's son, Jared? Yeah, thanks for coming and supporting your mom. That's pretty cool. This is Local Government 101. I had some people contact me and say, well, how do we get in touch with the council? How do we talk to you? This is it. This is it. You come here and you talk, and we listen, and we do research and put our best people on it. And just echo what everybody else said, I can promise you, you do have the best caring people on it. And that's not to say that's us, but this competent and very capable staff that works well with UDOT, works well with all the other government agencies. So I add my 2 cents to them. Yeah, I usually have like 2 or 5 or 8 cents.
You should know that.
Yeah, I should know that. But yeah, we'll work hard to get something figured out and be in communication. The one part of that Councilman Argyle and I met on that bridge that day as I was coming back from work, and that's about probably the 8th trip I'd taken on that bridge that day. But we watched the ambulance and fire crew and the policemen that came on site there, and again, we routinely do this here, but I mentioned it to Don. I haven't mentioned the chief yet, but I mentioned to Don Thomas, our head of our ambulance, earlier today, that for 45 minutes watching that, and it was tough to see some kids walk through that and see the things they were seeing, because that's scary stuff. You have some mangled vehicles and people being taken care of. But the professionalism of your staff, Chief, the way they came upon a chaotic and very scary scene and went through their training, went through their routines to take care of people. And they do that day in, day out. They do that a lot on Highway 6, up and down it, and it's some scary stuff. But I was so proud to know some of those people that are walking around and pointing, saying, "You go here, you go here, you go here," and checking people out and taking care of them with the best trained care they know how. So they did their jobs that day. They did them well. Don, happily, I didn't know until today, reported to me that the truck driver asked where his sunglasses were that night and was on the road the next day with another truck. He's okay, and you guys know about your neighbor a lot better than I do, but thankfully it's not life-threatening stuff, and they'll recover. That's not always the case on that road, so we do know it's serious. And again, I promise we'll do all we can to work that along quick. So when you hear about the upcoming legislature session and you hear about transportation funding, know that that's what Chris is talking about. Those are real dollars that affect your real community. And so our legislators that we work in accordance with all the time down here in Spanish Fork, when we're talking about transportation dollars, that's how those projects get funded. And so we all need to be keen and aware of what that means and what rules are passed up there at the legislature this upcoming session. Moving on to the active and healthy community kind of report I give every week, Mayor, it seems like. But this week we posted on the page asking people to tell us their why physical health is important to them. We had some great responses, people that wrote some inspiring posts about why it's important for them and their families to be active and healthy. The sponsor of it was Hermes CrossFit, a CrossFit gym just down by the airport that Dave and Sherilyn Woodhouse own. And they saw the posts and were moved as well and decided to give everyone a month membership down there at CrossFit at Hermes. And so it was a $600 plus giveaway that they gave to the community of people that get to go get some swag from them and then try to start their year off being healthier and doing it with some people. So I'd like to thank them. They're a great business in the community and a member of the chamber, I believe. Okay, good. That's good. If not, this would be a good plug to get them, right?
If not, they will be next year.
Yes, yeah. Also, on the active and healthy front, the QPR trainings, the question, persuade, and refer trainings, dealing more with mental health. I think those meetings went well that we had with the employees of the city, and I know other businesses have reached out asking for that training, and I'm encouraged by that. You read the news, we have some mental health challenges in Utah. We have some specific struggles with mental health and depression in this area of the valley and in Spanish Fork. And so this program, we've put some money behind it with the Active and Healthy grant that we received, and I'm excited to see some results come from it. Some more people being trained in how to deal with somebody that's maybe struggling with depression and or suicide. Other than that, some board meetings I attended. Mayor was with Seth yesterday, attended the League of Cities and Towns board meeting, along with the Legislative Policy Committee meeting to discuss the upcoming legislative session. Again, I've said this before too, but I'm proud that it seems like we don't struggle as much as maybe other cities do with communicating with our legislators down here, our senators and representatives. We appreciate them always being willing to talk to us and keep us up to date about what issues will come up this session and how it will affect us as community members. And with that, I echo Kier. Merry Christmas to everyone. There's a lot of good things that happen around this time where people seem to be at their best in giving and trying to do the right thing. One person that's been here a number of times in City Council and a great member of the chamber also, Wendy Osborne at Tabitha's Way. I just encourage anybody, if you're looking for the opportunity to maybe help this Christmas season and haven't found one yet or want to find another one, Tabitha's Way, I'm a proud member of their board, has really educated me on what they can do there with just a little bit of funds. We took down Monday as a family. We ate on Main Street, went down to Tabitha's Way, and each of the kids did some chores this last week, and they gave $10 each to Wendy. And that $10 is pretty significant, and you'll maybe see it a little bit on Facebook circulated, I hope. But Wendy always gets people dropping off a bag of groceries or dropping off toys, something like that, and those are great. They use those things. But $10 can go a lot farther than that stuff. The reason being, which I didn't know, is because they can buy food at wholesale prices by the pallet rather than just us that pay retail at the grocery store. And so if you're thinking about possibly dropping off a bag of groceries to the food pantry this Christmas season to help out, drop off $10 instead. Alexander Hamilton's on the 10. I know that from banking, Mayor.
There you go, proud of you.
So we've come up with a little play on it, that's called A Hamilton Can Help a Ton. If you drop off a $10 bill at Wendy at Tabitha's Way, that will be enough money to feed one child or one adult for a whole month. That's the resources they can use there. So what we spend on a meal is a lot different than what they can buy a meal for. They feed 5,000 people a month out of that pantry. So if you think there's a need, there is a need, and half of those people are children. So this Christmas season, if you want to help some kids in the struggle that they have of finding a meal, a Hamilton can help a ton. Drop off $10 to Tabitha's Way, and it can help feed one of those people for a month. So there's a good Christmas idea. And again, thanks for, it's so awesome to be part of this community and see all the good things that happen around. I feel very lucky this season that my family lives here and we're a part of this great community, because it's all because of you guys. That's all I have, Mayor. Thanks.
Great. Not to be outdone by Stacy and Kier, Brandon and all that. I went across that cut bridge.
Oh, here we
when it was a wooden bridge. Yeah. Went to work on my grandpa's farm up in Mapleton every summer, every day. So, yeah, I know.
You care.
I care. Yeah, that's what I want to say. I care.
Just say that instead of
bringing up the old time.
We've heard the wood bridge from you and Chad so many times.
Oh, yeah. Well, hey, a lot of fond memories there.
Score.
So, anyway, I just want to report the rodeo committee went down to Las Vegas last week. As Seth said, we didn't see the light of day. We were in meetings all week, and they work really hard. The reason we go down there, we have a lot of meetings. They talk about the NFR gets together and have all the rodeos and has seminars and everything that we can do to improve our rodeo and do things like that. And so it was very educational, and also we were able to check the coming specialty acts that we have down there and the bullfighters and all that stuff. And so that was really good. It was a real special time this time because Steve Money was honored as the committee person of the year. And so at the banquet he was honored, and so that was kind of good to have our Spanish Fork represented there, and we appreciate that. Also, I wanted to thank the Chamber for the Festival of Lights, or for the Electric Parade, and lighting the Christmas tree. Our first year is that tradition. It's cool. I want to thank the employees for putting that together and making that such a wonderful experience, and so that was great. And just like everybody else, I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you for coming. You did an awesome job. That's the way it's supposed to be done, right there. And so, just like everybody said, your voices are heard, and we'll work on that and see what we can come up with. But just like everything, the government works slow, and so don't give up on us, because we're trying, and we'll make that happen. Okay, let's move on to consent items.
Motion to approve the consent items.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilmember Beck. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You opposed?
I just wanted to make it clear that this feel comfortable to leave now.
Oh, yeah, don't.
Yeah, because they're wondering, and there's no need to stay.
No, please stay.
You can see us live on SF17.
Really
Go home and
stuff
watch.
to talk about.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Everybody on this side of the room has to stay.
Yeah.
Don't be leaving.
It's not even the budget or the audit.
I know, sorry, Kent. Okay, let's go into let's talk about the public hearing, ordinance 2817, vacating a portion of Kirby Lane.
Thank you, Mayor. This is actually an amendment to an ordinance we passed back in September, vacating a portion of Kirby Lane. As most people know, with the theater opening, we need a little better traffic coordination and access in that area of town. And the city's been in the process for several months now of acquiring property so a road can be built on the west side of where the theater is. In order to make that happen, we vacated the westerly portion of Kirby Lane some time ago, and it was effective when the new road's built. Well, we ran into some title problems, and it's taken us a while to get to the closing and get this all wrapped up. In the meantime, you heard an announcement here, I don't know, 2 or 3, 4 meetings ago about a hotel that's coming, and the hotel needs to be working simultaneously with our road now. We thought we would have it in place earlier, but because of these title issues, we're a little bit delayed. So we're seeking to amend the earlier vacation and make that vacation immediate now. And we want to do what we did with Chapel Drive when we vacated Chapel Drive, and we'll take back a license, a temporary license agreement will allow us to use that until the new road can be built. So that will allow the hotel to go forward. It's a small enough piece. The hotel doesn't need it for their construction or their design, but it needs to be part of their parcel. And so back in the new business, we'll talk about this in the sense of the temporary license agreement, but we're asking that we modify our earlier decision and make the vacation effective immediately and subject to getting that license agreement.
All right, since this is a public hearing, I'd entertain a motion to go into public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Scobes, a second by Councilman Gordon. Anyone in the public like to come and talk about this issue? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to go out of public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Mendenhall and a second by Councilman Gordon. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
I move we approve ordinance 28-17 vacating a portion of Kirby Lane.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Scobes, a second by Councilman Mendenhall. This will be a roll call vote. Councilman Scobes?
Aye.
Councilman Mendenhall?
Aye.
Councilman Gordon?
Aye.
Councilmember Beck?
Aye.
Councilman Argal?
Aye.
That is approved. Okay, ordinance 2917, making amendments to the land use ordinance concerning development standards. Reader's Digest.
Yes,
You've used up all
just
your-
the major points. First of all, there's a state law passed saying that you have to let builders build a home if there's fire protection and all weather surface into the home, and so this adjusts our laws to match the state laws. We have this dedication statement and plat saying that we own all the sidewalks, curb and gutter, roads, everything. We added to that the walls because we have quite a few walls along collector roads. This requires the soils report lot by lot so that these homeowners don't have to pay really high costs for soils reports for their individual houses. If there's a comprehensive soils report being done anyway for the whole final plat, just economically it makes much more sense to have the developer just gather that little bit of extra data when they're doing the soils reports anyway. This also adds in there a caveat if our ordinance states that utility lines have to be brought to a development and then through a development. And it just states that, but there's been many instances where it just doesn't make sense to do that, and it doesn't benefit the city, and it's just a high cost to developer, and and so in the past, your city engineer has been just waiving that probably without enough permission to do that. So this gives permission.
The engineer wouldn't do that.
No, I know, but this requires those type of actions to be waived by the Development Review Committee, which I think is really appropriate. Anything that can save a party a lot of money, you kind of want a lot of eyes on that. And then a lot of the changes too are just to fix discrepancies between our construction standards and our development ordinance, and just matching them up. So that's what you have.
Okay, thank you. Public hearing, I'd entertain a motion to go into public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilmember Beck, it's second by Councilman Scopes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone in the audience who would like to talk about this one? Same people. I'd entertain a motion to go out of public hearing.
So move.
Second?
Got a motion by Councilman Mendenhall, second by Councilman Gordon. Any questions, comments? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 29-17, making amendments to the land use ordinance concerning development standards.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilmember Beck, a second by Councilman Gordon. This will be a roll call vote. Councilman Mendenhall.
Aye.
Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilman Argal.
Aye.
Councilmember Scobes.
Aye.
That passes. New business. All right. Council's staff board appointments. So usually every 2 years we change up some of our board assignments here as council members. And so I'm going to read the list of those council members and the boards that they're on. So we'll start with Councilman Mendenhall. He'll be on the Airport Board, Parks and Rec Committee, Risk Management, and Utah League of Cities. Councilman Gordon will be on the Chamber of Commerce, Personnel Committee, South Utah Valley Solid Waste District, Wastewater Treatment Plant Advisory Committee. Councilmember Beck will have Fiesta Days, Library Board, Miss Spanish Fork, Personnel Committee, Youth City Council. Councilman Scobes will have the Arts Council, the South Utah Valley Animal Service Special Service District, Utah Lake Commission, and Veterans Council. Councilman Argal will have the Mount Nebo Water Agency, Risk Management, Seniors Board, and South Utah Valley Municipal Water Agency. And if you wonder what I do, I've got Council of Governments, Fairgrounds Committee, Fire Retirement Board, Personnel Committee, Rodeo Committee, South Utah Valley Power System, Utah Municipal Power Agency. So there are new board appointments. Do we need a vote on those, Junior?
Yeah. If there are any changes, we do. If there's no changes, we don't.
Well, there are changes.
Okay.
What about Mayor Pro Tem? Did you talk about that one?
I did not.
Would you like to?
I should.
Will they take minutes?
If there's not a change, our Mayor Pro Tem is Councilman Mendenhall. We'll just keep that. You good with that? Everybody okay with that?
He
Okay.
does a good job.
I know.
Good guy, that guy.
Now, also, do I need to talk about the alternates?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
So on the Utah Lake Commission, alternate is Chris Thompson. Dennis is an alternate as well. And
Can we-
also Dennis Sorensen.
So let's replace that one also with his retirement in January.
Okay, so we'll just stick with Chris Thompson and Corey Pierce. Okay. Alternate to the Mount Nebo Water Agency, alternate is Mayor Leifson and Chris Thompson. And we need to change Chris as the first alternate, so I'll follow you. So you're the first attendant, I'm the second attendant. Nice job.
Chris is also an alternate on the South Utah Valley Solid Waste, right?
Yes, I probably should be.
Probably should be.
You are.
If we did this by resolution, it's really easy to send those out, and some of the governing bodies might require it anyway.
Right, and that's why we're doing it, so you're on that too. Okay, did I cover everything? If I got them all? All right, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve mayor's appointments of council and staff to board and committees as presented.
Second?
Got a motion by Councilman Argal, a second by Councilman Beck. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, just so everybody knows out though, these are very important boards that our councilman and ourselves serve on. They spend a lot of time on them, and a lot of them can save us a lot of money here at the city as they do their job. Okay, moving on to Logan Simpson Design, Inc., contract for land use planning service.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I really appreciate the support that the council's provided in allowing us to get to where we are now with this project. In short, this contract would allow us to employ Logan Simpson Design, a very, very well-respected land use planning and design firm, to help us do a project to study the river bottoms and to determine, or maybe just simply to reaffirm, what our plans from a land use perspective should be for that part of what eventually will be Spanish Fork City. I believe that the proposal that they've given us, which is attached to the contract, spells out adequately what they'll do for us. They will work throughout 2018 to help prepare, as I mentioned, a plan for that particular area. We'd anticipate that you all will be involved in that, as well as a number of other people from the community, perhaps the entire community in one way or another. And while I am a little bit anxious, frankly a little bit intimidated as well by this project because of its scope and scale and what I think it very well could mean to Spanish Fork a very long time from now into the future, I'm really excited that we can do this, and I strongly believe it's the right thing to do, and that it's the right time to do it. So we would ask that you approve this contract.
Have they done anything like this before, Dave? I mean,
They have.
Have they?
Yeah,
Okay.
they've got a pretty distinguished resume, in fact, of work like this. Every project is a little bit unique.
Right.
But they have.
Okay, cool.
May I
This,
ask?
this seems like this would be rare to me. I don't know, to ask somebody to do something like this.
Well, in our interview, we had about 6.
We interviewed a total of 6 firms. Yeah.
So they've, and all of them had a lot of experience, and these guys.
I think it's cool.
So, yeah, unlike you, I didn't know you could do this, but they do it all over the country, so it's pretty cool.
Some people may wonder that we're doing this as, well, I guess, that we are annexing the river bottoms, that this is a project annexing the river bottoms. Speak to that if you would.
We're not.
Just clarify that. We're not annexing the river bottoms, right?
Larry wants you to clarify that.
Yeah.
This contract has
Where are you
nothing
going
to
with
do.
Yeah,
with-
please don't throw out the fire.
I want to make sure that it's clear.
Somebody on my way up here said, just sing the first verse. So I was trying to be a little bit succinct. But in fact, I
And
know
the chorus.
that, somebody's suggested that this project in some way, shape, or form is the result of Spanish Fork City's desire to see the river bottoms develop, I think maybe more so even than annex. We do plan to annex the river bottoms. We plan to annex the river bottoms as property owners approach the city and say they want to annex, and as the timing of those requests matches the city council's plans and desires to annex the river bottoms. We are doing this project because the river bottoms is part of our annexation policy. So from that perspective, we do anticipate annexing it. I would guess that it's many decades into the future before the majority of that area will be in Spanish Fork City. Things could happen more quickly. But I think more importantly, right now, the city's plan for the river bottoms is that it remain agricultural land. And I have not seen anything from council or anybody else to suggest that we have any immediate desire to change that plan. But rather, this project, I think, is our opportunity to kind of study that question and to determine if indeed that's the path we want to stay on. And I think, frankly, if that's the case, then we need to ask ourselves in some pretty practical ways how we anticipate being somewhat proactive to keep the river bottoms the way that it is. Maybe, in fact, there's a little bit of give and take. Some part of the river bottoms develop so that other areas can remain preserved. Perhaps there's some prioritizing that goes on relative to deciding exactly how that all would work. And I don't want to speculate much at all about what this project will result in. But again, no plans to develop Maybe last bit of clarification, probably on like the fourth verse by now, but I think a big part of the timing for us and why this is the right time for us to do this is because of development pressure. And for the last 20 years, 10 plus years that I'm aware of intimately, Spanish Fork City's response to development applications for the river bottoms has consistently been no. No, no, no. But we've gotten asked that often enough, and we seem to be receiving that question more frequently from people that have more immediate plans to develop that, you know, again, I think that's part of the kind of crescendo that's slowly built to where we are now, that I think it's the right time for us to do this so we can maybe stay a little bit out ahead of that pressure and some of those desires.
Thanks, Dave.
Mayor, I was lucky enough to accompany Dave last week to the county commission, where we invited them to participate because this is in the county, invited them to be a part of this study, which I think was well received, as Dave could say as well. Even maybe at the end they were talking about, this is the way you do this stuff. This might be a model for them to be able to look at other areas in the county where cities are growing into agricultural areas. But when somebody asked me after that meeting, well, what's the city's plans? Well, the city's plans are not plans. Here's a plan that a roadmap that maybe people can look at. But the encouraging thing is a company that says, we're going to go talk to 115 different property owners of the river bottoms and all 1,800 plus 2,000 acres of the river bottoms, and talk to them, find out what they want, what's their vision, what's the city's vision, what's the county's vision. Get everybody in the same room and talk about it. An encouraging thing. And I just it speaks to our logo of Pride and Progress that we're out in front of this, trying to be that part of progress and try to plan for it. So really good stuff. I'm excited to see what comes out of it.
Great. Any other questions, comments?
Motion to approve the Logan Simpson Design, Inc. contract for land use planning services.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilmember Beck. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Kirby Lane temporary license agreement.
I promise you we'd talk about this some more.
Way to go, Junior.
So this is the license agreement we referred to when we talked about the modification of the Kirby Lane vacation. This grants us a license across the property that we've just vacated, so that we'll continue to be treated as a street. It will allow us and the public access across it. That's important because until that new road is completed, this is the only access into Sapa. Of course, that's an important business in our community, and we need to make sure that we're not harming them in any way. But the temporary license agreement will also allow the developer out there to start working on the plat that they need for the hotel, and so that can happen simultaneously, and this easement will be extinguished once the road is completed, and SAPA's employees, their customers, and other members of the public have need to access it, can access Kirby Lane as it exists today until that is done.
Great. Any questions, comments? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the Kirby Lane temporary license agreement.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilmember Beck, a second by Councilman Mendenhall. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed. Ordinance 30-17, modifying the makeup of the Employees Disciplinary Appeals Board.
So our ordinance, when it deals with personnel matters, creates the city council as the appeal board. That draws into question on occasion the impartiality of the board. As staff, it makes it really difficult for us to keep you as the council informed of some of our personnel matters that are coming up. Sometimes we have to tell you that we're dealing with an issue, but we can't give you any specifics because you may be the judges. For a long while, the League of Cities has recommended that we not do it that way. And we've had an opportunity to study and see what some other cities do. And our proposal is that we change that makeup of the Employee Appeal Board to have people with some expertise in municipal employee law that would be familiar with the rules that would act as that board. It would be a 3-member board. It would be made up of people like city attorneys, city managers, human resource directors, their assistants of all of those. It would be up to the city manager to make that appointment. That does put a little bit of a burden on our city manager if this happens, because he's got to get that board put together fairly quickly. That makes an independent board that is familiar with the rather unique rules that we deal with in municipal and government employee law, and allows us, I think, to be a little more efficient, allows us as staff to keep you as our governing body better informed of what's happening. Now, having said that, in my approximately 30 years here, we've never had an appeal that have gone to you guys, but we're getting large enough that, it's possible. It's more likely, that it will happen in coming years than in the past, just due to our size. And we've grown from, we were somewhere around 50 employees when I started to we're somewhere around 180 or thereabouts now. So. With growth comes other challenges, and this is one that we think will just make us more efficient, more impartial, and allow you to act as the governing body. Questions?
That is a body of, not someone of our city.
Right.
Right, so it wouldn't be our city manager, our city attorney, it would be some other.
Our city manager would reach out to us, so they might come from Lehigh, from Santaquin, from Nephi.
Exactly.
Provo, they'd come from somewhere else around.
Perfect. Any questions, comments?
I think for good reference, you could ask Junior if he's ever done something like this.
Junior, have ever done anything like this before?
More times than I'd care to tell you about.
All right.
Have you ever served as an independent member of somebody else's board?
I've helped several other cities with things like this.
Wow.
It's a good system.
It is.
And I think it'll alleviate either me or you, the biases that come from being connected to the employees individually, and maybe making us not rule correctly one way or the other. Gives a very good independent view of these things.
All right, if there's no other questions, I'd entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve ordinance 3017 and modifying the makeup of the Employee Disciplinary Appeal Board.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Mendenhall, a second by Councilman Scobes. This will be a roll call vote. Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilman Argal.
Aye.
Councilman Scobes.
Aye.
Councilman Mendenhall.
Aye.
All right, Resolution 1711, amending the makeup of the Appeals Board of the Spanish Fork City Employees Personnel Policy.
Okay, so this is closely related to the ordinance, but the personnel policy also has provisions about the hearing process in the Appeals Board. So in the personnel policy, it also addresses the council as the appeal body. We need to change that. But the other thing we need to change in the personnel policy is we need to change the initial appeal hearing officer. So in our format, if there's a discipline of an employee, now when we're talking about discipline under the state law, that's pretty serious discipline. It's termination, demotion, or suspension for more than 2 days without pay. So we're talking about somebody who has done something very serious or has a long history of more minor things that have just accumulated to the point that it's serious. And the department director acts as the initial hearing officer. Under the current personnel policy, the appeal goes to the city manager and then a subsequent appeal to the city council. We're proposing to take the city manager out of that and then just have the appeal body, as we've just adopted in the Ordinance Act, as the single appeal. We think that's more efficient, and I think more important internally, the city manager under our ordinances is the person who we have charged with being over personnel. But when he's been a hearing officer, we haven't been able to let the person over personnel know what's going on. So there's been several times that I've had to go to Dave, to Seth, just maybe just once since he's been the manager, but many times I've gone to Dave and said, Dave, we're dealing with a pretty serious personnel problem, I can't tell you about it because you might be the hearing officer. Well, that's hard on the manager who's charged with being over personnel. And so as we're changing the makeup of the appeal body, we think it's also time that we take out that middle appeal and let's get the manager involved with personnel so he can be in, at least he can know what's going on as these things are happening and doesn't have to be left in the cold.
Any other questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
A motion to approve Resolution 1711, amending the makeup of the appeal board of the Spanish Fork City Employee Personnel Policy.
Second.
A motion by Councilman Mendenhall, a second by Councilman Gordon. This will be a roll call vote. Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilman Argyle.
Aye.
Councilman Scobes.
Aye.
Councilman Mendenhall.
Aye.
Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Approve CBC Advisory Consulting Service Contract.
Once again, thank you. Spanish Fork City has had a contract with CBC Advisors for about 2 years now, and just speaking for myself, from my perspective, they have served the city very, very well. We certainly, I think, have benefited from their insight, their advice, their willingness to consult with us, to offer suggestions, and help us plan for the future. Primarily, they give us direction relative to retail development. They have close relationships with many of the businesses that have come into Spanish Fork City in the recent past. They have relationships with businesses that we hope will come in the near future. And this contract simply modifies, or would if you approve it, the relationship that we have with CBC, which right now is a fixed monthly fee. It changes from that arrangement to simply an hourly fee, with the understanding, it's clearly spelled out in the contract, that CBC does not do work without our explicit request. There's no minimum number of hours, for example, that we need to employ them for. Simply, it's a matter of, as we use their services, we'll pay for it. I think after the growth that we've seen in the past couple of years and the great work that they've done, this relationship moving forward will help us be efficient with the city's resources and CBC's time, and we'll still get what we need. So certainly recommend that you approve this contract.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the CBC Advisors Consulting Services Contract.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Scobes, a second by Councilman Mendenhall. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Reapprove of Vincent Ridge Estates Planning Preliminary Plat.
Once again, thank you. The preliminary plat for Vincent Ridge expired just a little over a week ago, and as such, before we can record their next plat, we need the council to reapprove their preliminary plat. Took this to the Planning Commission last week. They recommended that the plat be reapproved. We see no reason to withhold that reapproval. This is something that I won't say that it's become routine, but you're aware that we've brought other projects in this state to you in the recent past, and we'd request tonight that you reapprove the preliminary plat for Vincent Ridge.
All right.
I'll make that motion, Mayor, to approve the reapproval of Vincent Ridge Estates preliminary plat.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilman Argyle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Extension request approval for the Ridge Townhome preliminary plat.
Thank you, and just to touch on this, maybe Angie, if you can help us get this in the notes, so then that reapproval of the preliminary plat for Vincent Ridge Estates, that will be valid until December 12, 2018. And for the next project, requested similar in one way. You have a preliminary plat, difference being this is due to expire here in just about a week, and rather than to allow the plat to expire so that we go through what we just did on Vincent Ridge, the applicant, before the expiration, has requested that the approval of the preliminary plat be extended. You as the council have the authority per Title 15 to grant such an extension. And we would request that you grant that extension to June 12 of 2018, 6 months. I don't know if this is necessary to say or not, but this particular project, the townhomes, this is the townhome project that's immediately east of the neighborhood Walmart. This developer was very good in working with us throughout the Walmart construction and the construction of some of the infrastructure that happened in concert with the development of that site, the construction of the roundabout, for example, and different things like that. I don't know that that is what has brought them this close to having the project's approval expire or not, but not that we have a reason to suggest that you don't grant the extension, but I think that's some reason certainly to consider extending the approval as well. So we ask that you do that.
Great.
I'll make a motion to approve the extension request for the Ridge Townhomes preliminary plat.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilmember Beck, a second by Councilman Mendenhall. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Ordinance 31-17, authorizing the mayor to sign on behalf of the city. Wow.
Somebody's been saving up.
Payroll checks?
I don't think you signed those.
Oh, darn.
The mayor's the chief executive. It's kind of implicit with the chief executive that that's who signs on behalf of the city ordinances, resolutions, contracts, all kinds of things. We recently had somebody, when we were getting a document signed, ask for the mayor's authority, and so we want to see where that is. And we looked into state law where it talks about the mayor's duties. It's not there anymore. My recollection is that it was once, but the state rearranged a lot of the municipal stuff with the form of government and the officers, and I either missed it or it wasn't there before, but it's not there today. So this is an ordinance that we'll put into our city code, the authority of the mayor to sign on behalf of the city. It's just a clarification.
The date on this says 12th of November. Do we need to change that to December?
We should. Angie probably on top of that.
She's caught it.
Right, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve ordinance 31-17, authorizing the mayor to sign on behalf of the city.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Argal, a second by Councilman Mendenhall. This also will be a roll call vote. Councilman Argal.
Aye.
Councilman Scobes.
Aye.
Councilman Mendenhall.
Aye.
Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, Westfield Irrigation Millrace Canal Agreement. Come on down.
Map of the city and just kind of the south end of the city. South
Here we
of,
go again.
something I could point at, right? Just over here by Swenson Park.
There's no crowd here. You don't have to please anybody.
So the Millrace Canal has some of our stormwater coming from the bench feeding into it, and we got looking at this facility. We are responsible for the maintenance of it up to Main Street already. A lot of it borders properties that we have or farmland, and our master plan for our storm drain calls for stormwater to go from the bench all the way across all that farmland in the river bottoms into the river. And it's very expensive to build those pipes because they're very large, because it's very flat out there. So the flatter the pipe is, the larger you have to make it to carry the flows. If you're going off a cliff, you can have a really small pipe because a lot of water will go through quickly. Well, at any rate, when we had our first opportunity to build a pipe all the way across river bottoms, for some reason we opted to just put it in an irrigation ditch of a farmer instead, with a verbal handshake agreement, which is great until he makes you hand clean that darn ditch every time you turn around, and threatens all kinds of things, and you wonder if. So at any rate.
Thanks for.
At any rate, it came to a point where I was wishing I could just put that water in the mill race, and we started talking to Westfield Irrigation, and what we've worked out with them is right now we owe them what used to be around $30,000, and it's kind of gone down to a few $1,000s a year to dump some water in some canals up here, and a little bit into the mill race here each year, and they owe us for 50% of the cost of us cleaning out the mill race. Well, neither one of us are good at paying each other for these costs. Us mostly because they don't pay us, so we don't pay them. But at any rate, this solves all of that and says no one pays anyone anything. We maintain the mill race all the way to the diversion structure, which is right here, which then diverts water to here, and then it has an overflow sluice that comes out to our ditch here along the sports park and out to the river, and we maintain this as well. So this is really the only gap where we don't maintain. So we add that to our maintenance schedule of the mill race, which goes all the way to the golf course, and in return we can put storm water into the mill race wherever we deem appropriate, because we're responsible for how the mill race performs anyway. It will save us an incredible amount of money in pipe across the river bottoms, and the headache that gives you with the farmers who really don't want the pipe there, and the maintenance of it, and the easements, and we're looking at some ideas here of maybe beautifying the mill race a little bit, maybe embracing it as some sort of like a stream type feature, landscaping around it, maybe making it so it's not so hidden. One of our concerns is, what if a mother who has younger kids playing around lets them wander over here not knowing that there's this water hazard here, and so wanting to solve some of those issues. And we have a trail that runs all the way up to here, and we have a trail coming from the river bottoms that's coming up here to the fairgrounds and to the cemetery. Wouldn't it be nice if a trail could come across here, going under Main Street, come along the mill race, which by all intents looks like a small stream, and connect to this trail and create a big loop here as well. So we're looking at all of these options, but this agreement is just simply to let us dump stormwater into the canal as we want, but we will agree to maintain this section of the mill race, and we both agree to not pay each other any more money.
To not pay each other any more money.
We're not paying anybody. Still continue not paying.
Yeah.
All right, I'd entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the Westfield Irrigation Mill Race Canal Agreement.
Second.
A motion by Councilman Mendenhall, a second by Councilmember Beck. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Yes, they say I used to swim in the mill race. There you go. All right, Dallas Hawks fence height request.
Fence heights in Spanish Fork are limited to 6 feet. 6 feet in height for a fence or a freestanding wall, unless the city council approves something taller. And that's why we're here tonight. We have a proposal for somebody to construct I'll say fence that's taller than 6 feet, and it's entirely up to the council as to whether or not you want to approve that. Joseph Ernst is here tonight to speak to the request. I'll just mention that this is coming about because we have a problem with a business in town that's a little bit loud, and this is a problem that we as staff are taking very seriously. We know that some neighbors have concerns. We believe the business operator, owner, they're taking it seriously as well. I think this has gone on about as long as we can continue to allow it to go on relative to the noise concern that we have, and we appreciate the proposal that's before you tonight that we think will be a significant step potentially towards addressing the problem that exists. So, Mr. Ernst, I don't know if you want to
Piggyback on
take
that.
off from there. Yeah.
Dave, piggyback on that. So we, with the quick whack over there, the bad actor, Joseph Ernest, the bad actor, the air dryers, those air blowers are pretty loud. And our original abatement measure was to install an automatic sound door. And while that has improved the situation of the neighbors, it hasn't improved our compliance with the ordinance the way that sound is measured. So now we're coming back, and we've been working with Dave and Seth, and they've been great to work with us. And our desire is to be a good neighbor, to be a good commercial citizen of Spanish Fork. We've enjoyed working with the city. We enjoy being right across from Costco. We have no complaints. And so we're just going to continue to do our best to abate the disturbance that is being caused by the air blowers. And this is our, hopefully, just Herculean effort to make sure that the neighbors to the south do not have any more issues or disturbances whatsoever or complaints associated with the air blowers. And so what it is, it's actually a 10-foot tall wall, and I brought pictures so you can visualize the product we're using. So, Mayor, permission to approach the bench?
You betcha. Oh, yeah. Hey,
Wow.
you know, hey, it's almost like Perry Mason, isn't it?
Yes.
I like it.
Permission to move around well.
Yeah, boy.
Thank you.
Can you pass that on to my kids?
No. Rice Krispie treats win.
Where are you going to write boss on?
So this is just a picture, an example of the product itself. So the wall will be about 4.5 inches thick, and it'll have two separate 1-inch foam insulation parts of it. We worked with the BYU acoustical department to try and, again, Herculean effort to make sure that this is going to do it, to absorb and divert the sound that's coming from the exit tunnel, which is, again, the issue. The big, so it'll be dark green. Those are the metal the metal facade of both the front and the back. It'll be dark green to match our current dark green color. And the big thing we're trying to do is figure out a way to get Springville to pay for our wall. But that's
We like that.
Dude,
Yes. We like you already. You're scoring points.
So it's going to be 10 feet tall.
The new mayor might like you.
Yes. Any questions for me regarding the initiative?
So is that dotted line going to be the fence? And then you said you've got so what's this right here?
Oh,
That's going to be the wall, 43 feet wide by 10 feet tall by
Outside.
4.5 inches thick.
So the dotted line is the existing fence then?
Correct.
Okay.
Joseph,
Yeah.
did you say 10 or 12? The plan's there,
10.
so that's wrong?
Correct.
So
Okay.
it's, can you go to the other portion of this image here? I want to make sure I understand this really clearly.
Yeah.
I understood that the flat portion
Is
of the wall,
10.
if you will, was 10, and then it had the 2-foot.
Metal cap.
Nope. So if you look in the middle one over here, 8 feet, and then it starts to curve. It's 8 feet straight up, and then it curves 2.
Okay.
And I confirmed that before because the plan actually shows 10 and 12. So this 10
Perfect.
is exact.
In March of 2016, I think when we approved this, somewhere back then, you built in 2016 and got her done. Been busy ever since. I remember people being concerned about sound and concerned about traffic. We had some traffic issues. You had to make a turn lane and everything else. It was quite the process and everything. What were we just guessing on how much sound was going to be, noise was going to be created to disturb the neighbors, and that wasn't the right amount, and now it's louder? Or how did we not know that we should have built this wall when you opened rather than?
So good question. I don't know what they told you as far as the decibel amounts, but they've had so many in operation prior that I think it would have been definitely an educated statement from them regarding the amount of decibels that they would expect. Potential variances would be the type of air blower, maybe the number of air blowers, but I don't know why there's a discrepancy. But we're trying to fix it.
You've tried different air blowers and different ways to do it, and the door and everything.
Well, we now put the door on, and that definitely improves the situation for the neighbors. The door mitigates and abates the sound significantly. However, the way the door works, if there's a continuous flow of cars back to back, which fortunately for us it happens a lot, then the door stays open. But in times when there's a gap in between cars, then it abates the noise beautifully. However, now we need a wall to further abate that sound.
Are the neighbors aware of the wall? Do we see any, like, will we have them coming saying, oh my gosh, what are you putting up, and then potentially have them say,
The neighbor's a vacant house.
I think it's occupied by a tenant right now, not the owner.
Okay.
But to answer your question, we
Know
have
what I'm
not
getting at.
But
reached
it's
out
up for sale, isn't it?
at all. Yes.
Yeah, it's up for sale.
In addition, we're really trying to make sure that wall looks good.
Yeah.
For us as well as the neighbors, of course.
okay. Good.
That height of your building, this is 10 feet. The height of your building's more than that, so I mean, from,
But the tunnel height's less than that. So according to the BYU Acoustical Department, another method we're going to do is right outside the tunnel, we're going to create a canopy of sorts that ensures that the sound is going to be directed down towards the wall. And then that's another reason why the top 2 feet is curved inward, so that again, it's just directing back towards us. It should be overkill. We're extremely optimistic this will be the end.
Good.
thanks for
Appreciate
that.
the
And that's not
efforts.
to put you on the spot as far
I
as,
appreciate
I
that.
remember us talking about sound and talking about traffic and everything, and a concern when you came in, because we knew you were going to be busy and knew you were going to be loud at the end of a tunnel because you got to blow that water off. So I don't know how many more of these we'll have in town in different places this is a unique place where it's going from commercial to residential.
Yeah,
So it's a unique place too, but hopefully this takes care of it.
All right. There's no other questions. I'd entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the Dallas Hakes fence at, do you want to do that 10 feet? Height request at 10 feet.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilman Scobes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Get her done. All right. MAG grant, STP application discussion.
I don't enjoy this anymore.
Let me put you on the clock.
All right, so we have every 2 years the opportunity to apply for grants through Mountain Lands Association of Governments for transportation-related projects, and they decided they wanted to make sure that the elected officials were on board with all the grant applications, and so they require the mayor to sign these applications, and so...
Wait, does he have authority? Oh, he does have authority.
Well, at any rate, we thought, well, maybe we should go over them with you before the mayor signs this. If you want to sign it, you can do whatever you want. But that being said, we put together a list, and I'll list them to you in order of priority that we came up with for grant applications. Could you show an aerial of the city? The first one, if you zoom out right here, you have this Spanish Fork Parkway, which is scheduled to come and connect. You can see where it's being constructed here, and then it turns into 2550 East. So it's constructed about to here. It's constructed to here. This subdivision's coming through the pipes, and so it'll construct it to here. We own all the right-of-way to get it to here, and this subdivision seems to be building out fairly quickly. And so our first project is to get this crossing in over the railroad tracks so that this will all connect, and it provides kind of a belt route type access to the hospital and commercial area here, to all of this new residential area going in here so they don't have to come across Cut Bridge onto Center Street and go up.
Hey, you've got solutions already.
That's a great project.
Nice job, Chris.
The next project in order of priority is this intersection right here is not the best intersection in town. It follows zero traffic engineering rules for design, and so what we'd like to do is put some money towards a master plan of how this will look someday. And so that's a relatively small one, but have an engineering firm really look at it, bring in the stakeholders, talk to you and us and say, how can we make this work and where are we going? So we can start that conversation and dialogue now so that when it blows up, as we're fearful it might, and I think it will, when something happens here, we have the answers and we've been preparing for it and having that public dialogue so that there's less political collateral damage done. So anyway, that's number 2. Number 3, if we can zoom out again. Tyler, you're doing a great job, by the way, I think.
Oh, you got stroked on that one.
We want this whole area, and if you can zoom out a little bit so we can see Springville, we have been pursuing a project, and it's really Spanish Fork and Springville together, as well as UDOT at times comes to the table with money, but right now they're not. But what we have is we have 2 railroad tracks, one that comes close to Spanish Fork. It hits and parallels Highway 6, which is the most dangerous configuration for a track, paralleling a road. And we all know the hazards of Highway 6, so it parallels the road. This is where we had a dump truck hit by that train. And then it comes together with a track which kind of goes along Springville and Mapleton here, and then they go up the canyon together. I'm told that the reason for this was this is the track that went up the canyon, and the old trains used to need to get some speed up before they went up the canyon, so it came out a little bit wider, whereas coming down the canyon you can make a straight shot. Well, the trains now don't have that problem, and so the thought is what if, starting right here, we come along this alignment until right about here, and then we curve into this alignment and go up the track and do away with this track altogether through our residential area and along Highway 6. So it seems like a great project. Our preliminary estimates are in the $40 million range to do this, and that's a lot of money. But by the time you make improvements at, between $2 and $7 million each at all these spots, you might pay for that, as well as the safety implications. You remove some dozen or 2 crossings, which are dangerous. And then with this project, we make all the improvements along this track corridor to make it a quiet zone and have ultra-safe crossings, if you will. And so we're excited about this project. We realize it's a lot of money. We think it would take the legislature to make it happen. But we've had meetings with the legislators and the railroad companies and MAG and UDOT. And
Mentioned that the railroad company is on board with getting rid of that track here, which is unheard of.
Yeah, we've had a lot of kumbaya meetings with everyone on this, but in order to get it to the next phase, some serious money needs to be put towards engineering, and so that's our number 3 MAG grant that we put on the list, is to fund the engineering of this design. Now you may say that conflicts with this project, because if this track goes away, then we don't need a crossing here. But we're prepared for an answer for that, so I'm glad you asked it.
Oh, Tyler. It wasn't funny.
Come on. It was great. So our thoughts are this is something that takes a decade to get done. Just to get that amount of money through legislature, get approvals through everyone, and this will probably be needed in the next few years. And even if it was only used for 5 years, it's needed that badly. And so that's kind of the arguments there. I'm not sure how that will fly actually in the MAG, so it'll be interesting.
So we try.
Yeah, so we'll just tell them it seemed like a good idea at the time. Mill Race, Swenson Park connection. I've already talked to you about that for the trail. That's number 4, and that's just building the trail here. And then number 5 would be the Butler Springs Trailhead and Bridge. That's our new pond. Down here, we'd like to build a trailhead there, and see the pond here. We'd like to build a little parking lot right here, and then a trail out to the river and a bridge across the river right there. So that's number 5. And then just by way of note, Springville, if we can go back to the north end of town, Springville is applying with this grant to construct, if you have Canyon Creek Parkway here, it kind of runs along there. The plan for Canyon Creek Parkway is to come out here and connect to 1200 West in Springville, and that road is laid out all the way through Springville to Provo. And so that road was granted funds in the last MAG grant project, and so what Springville is going to apply for with our support would be to make this connection here. And then right now, this little road that goes across the railroad here would be like a connection road into it. Now, last time, Springville also won the grant to remove the section of railroad from here to here and replace it with just a connection here. And that project's going on right now. And then the last thing is Mapleton is applying for a grant application down here with our support as well to connect their trail system, which comes along here, down along Highway 6 to where there's an old railroad bridge for the Ensign Bickford property where we can go under the trail and then connect down to the river to our river trail system. And so eventually our river trail can connect to Mapleton, go all the way up to Salt Lake on the Bonneville Shoreline Trail. So that would be kind of cool. So that's the list. If you have any complaints or additions, you could ask for a overhead crossing at Center Street. You could apply for a grant like that in this process if you directed me to, but we have very little data on that. So I don't know, but the deadline's Friday. So
I think we need to study that out a little bit.
that might be a good one to look at in 2 years.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Chris. I move we go into closed session for reasonably imminent litigation and land transaction.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilman Stacy. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you for everyone that was here. All one of you.
Bye, Heather.